Hey everybody, quick warning, I'm not a lawyer, this video is for entertainment purposes, everything I'm saying is alleged, and all thoughts and opinions are my own. There are two Valentinos, and one of them might be in serious legal trouble. Valentino Garavani and Mario Valentino. For years at this point, there's been a legal battle raging on that most people are completely unaware of. Over the course of this 5-year legal battle, people are still getting bamboozled at your local department store. Allegedly. And that's actually a really good point here that we want to stop and take note of, is that everything I'm saying here is alleged because it is still ongoing in court. So let's all practice together. Allegedly. Let's back up for a second. Do you remember when On first came out and everyone was like, who is this QN shoe company making these stupid looking sneakers? Okay, so now we understand that that company is just called On, but while we were sorting that out, there was a bunch of scammy websites selling dupes of On sneakers that were called like QNsneakers.com, very legitimate, very real LLC. Or like, okay, wait, you know how like your aunt thinks that like Louboutin and Louis Vuitton are the same company because they just sort of sound similar? And actually, okay, wait, my favorite example of this for real is that every man in America has at some point for some Christmas gotten a gift that was United States Polo Association, and you have to look at your grandma and with real earnestness say, thank you, Grandma. I love Polo by Ralph Lauren, and that's what this is. Thank you. Okay, so today we are talking about Valentino versus Valentino, which is nothing like any of those examples I just gave you. Honestly, the biggest reason why it's different than those examples is just heritage. If you've watched this channel for any length of time, you have definitely heard us talk about what makes ultra luxury brands so luxurious. You might be guessing that one of these Valentinos was just started by some sweaty dudes in their basement in 2010, and that the other one is this heritaged, beautiful house. But in fact, both of those companies do have an extensive heritage, in high fashion specifically. And in fact, the one who is being sued for acting in bad faith is 8 years older than the other Valentino. So Mario Valentino, the one that I would personally describe as acting in a dishonest manner in this situation, was founded in 1952. Valentino Garavani was founded in 1960. Back up. Why am I even using words like dishonest? So a part of this story that I find to be really important is that at one point in time, Mario Valentino and Valentino Garavani actually made an agreement with each other to prevent stepping on each other's toes because they had such similar names. So in 1979, they drafted a coexistence agreement that kind of outlined how each of them could brand themselves so they would never confuse an audience that they assumed would be pretty similar. But we're here today because Mario Valentino is on the hook for false advertising, false association, unfair competition, and other claims for, quote, actively engaging in a campaign to trade off Valentino's goodwill in the US handbag market, end quote. Why would an equally heritage brand even need to do that? What you may be shocked to learn about Mario Valentino as a company is that they have had some of the most well-known designers in the history of modern fashion work for them at one time or another. I'm not playing. I'm talking about Karl Lagerfeld, Giorgio Armani, Gianni Versace. They all contributed to Mario Valentino. Giorgio Armani designed the spring 1983 collection, which we do have some footage of. Gianni Versace designed the fall 1984 collection, which we do not have any footage of. And we know of a few shoe designs that were made for Mario Valentino by Mr. Lagerfeld. Okay, so just to rehash here, all of our faves worked for the company that is being sued. But before fashion became a part of the company, Mario Valentino was a shoe brand. The company expanded into leather clothes and handbags in 1968 and then started showing on the Milan Fashion Week calendar in 1979, which was the same year that Mario Valentino and Valentino Garavani signed that coexistence agreement. But for everybody else, for all of the people watching this more than likely, the name Valentino means one thing: an Italian couture house that is a staple at Paris Fashion Week, a brand that did the all-pink campaigns recently, the place that creative director Pierpaolo Piccioli just left and where Alessandro Michele will be building a fresh start. Isn't this crazy? Like, it's sort of nuts that this lawsuit is even happening in the first place. This is the single most interesting legal proceeding anything that I've ever encountered, and we watch a lot of true crime stuff. Hey, if you want us to be able to continue to bring you stuff like this and for us to be able to report live from Paris Fashion Week every 3 months, we can only do that through viewer support. It means the world to me that our audience is so actively engaged in what we do. The fact that people send our videos like one-on-one, like text them to friends to put them on. We've had, I can't tell you how many people say like, I go to a fashion school here and I showed this to my teacher and they loved it and now they want to talk to you or something. But the thing that actually makes this channel run, the thing that makes it where we are able to do this for both of our full-time jobs is it's financial support. The Patreon is the only way to do that. And you're not doing me any favors. I give you a ton of free stuff in return. You get to see a ton of extended episodes, a bunch of extra videos. You get to see extended interviews with some of the best designers in the world. You also get to join the Discord server, and that place is just a fucking party all the time. So join that Patreon. Pause the video, join it right now. I love you so much. Thanks for doing that. I really appreciate you pausing the video and joining the Patreon. So that's the Valentino that you're probably aware of. And interestingly, they have a really different origin story than Mario Valentino. And I know it would be easier here if I could just stop calling them by their actual names and just say the real Valentino. But honestly, y'all, it's complicated. But yeah, to me it's the real Valentino. Valentino Garavani studied couture in Paris under, all people, Cristobal Balenciaga. Hey, in case you're new here, in this house, Cristobal Balenciaga is the greatest couturier of all time. After studying under Cristobal Balenciaga, Valentino Garavani went back to Italy and hosted his first runway show in 1962 at the Pitti Palace in Florence. Jackie Kennedy liked that collection a lot, and that helped the brand grow a lot. So all this to say, let's bring it back in a little bit. The Valentino versus Valentino story is a lot different than it promises to be. Even though Valentino Garavani sells handbags in the $2,000-ish range and Mario Valentino sells handbags in the $500-ish range, Mario Valentino apparently has real heritage. Like we said, heavyweight and household names of fashion history have contributed to Mario Valentino. Why would they need to piggyback off of Valentino Garavani? Allegedly. Those are such great questions. This is where the story actually starts. Yarch Capital purchased the American handbag license from Mario Valentino in 2013. To me, did we all understand that? To me, it seems like they are acquiring that handbag license so that they could use it to their advantage. Because like right off the bat, you can see in the press release for the launch of the bags where the title is, quote, Valentino bags launches in US market. That kind of fails to include the name Mario. Wahoo! Which is interesting. Okay, this is the full quote. Quote, Valentino is one of the top brands in the world, said Jeff Yarchever, CEO of Yarch Capital and Valentino Bags. This is a brand new attainable luxury collection with a top designer name that people worldwide are familiar with. What is that designer name? That is literally what those lawyers are arguing about, I think, right now. Literally like right now. They're probably not in court right now. It's probably just everybody working at their office. They are being sued, of course, because of the association with Valentino Garavani. Though, of course, I'm sure Mario Valentino's lawyers would just jump up and say, we are an equally heritage brand. We are older than the other Valentino. Mario Valentino is the real Valentino. The OG press release goes on, quote, a new generation of Valentino bags is now available for a broader range of luxury shoppers. Personally, like, this looks like Mario Valentino trying to disguise themselves as a diffusion line of Valentino Garavani, allegedly. We'll talk more about diffusion lines a little bit later. Let's just shift gears here briefly so we can get more context. We're going to talk about handbags and theft in fashion. Everybody knows if a designer creates a blue trench coat, they do not own that idea. They literally and legally can't own that idea. And that is because the design of clothing only really is protected by the 2 or 3D renderings that is on the clothing. And just for the sake of our conversation today, what that means is logos. For this and other obvious reasons, brands have produced an enormous amount of logo product. In a way, it is the only thing that they are actually able to protect in a legal capacity. All right, so put a pin in that. Logos are important to this story, but we're not fully there yet. We're now going to talk about handbags. If you design a handbag, you are able to protect that handbag with a patent in the United States. These are 2 US patents for Valentino Garavani for their handbags. You can see the thing that they share in common are the studs. And for Valentino Garavani, that rock stud motif is not just a cool little like safe punk reference. It refers to the bagnatos seen on palazzo-style buildings in Rome. If you don't know much about Valentino, that's where a lot of their design language and kind of the heritage part of the house, that's where a lot of it's based, is Rome. That whole idea actually was spearheaded by our favorite accessories designers, Maria Grazia Chiuri and Pierpaolo Piccioli, who were co-creative directors of Valentino Garavani at the same time, back when they launched that rock stud in fall 2010. Other than the fact that she's designing at Dior right now, the thing that you would need to know about Maria Grazia is that she is probably the most successful accessories designer of all time. She and Pierpaolo, alongside Silvia Fendi, launched the Baguette, widely considered to be the first ever it bag, and she also has sold hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Dior book totes, reissuing the saddlebag, and she was responsible, alongside Pierpaolo, for that rock stud line at Valentino that still defines the brand over a decade later. Hundreds of millions honestly might be a conservative estimate. So what you see in these two patents is Valentino's Roman influence through the lens of the most successful accessories designers of all time. And I know that at the end of the day, what we are just talking about here is handbags, but Valentino has put a ton of effort into developing and selling this line, and it has ended up being huge business for them. So it must have been pretty shocking for Valentino Garavani to discover that their very similarly named competitor is selling handbags that do look pretty close to theirs. I mean, look at it. So I just want to make sure that we don't walk away from this video with any misunderstandings about this point. Dupes are not illegal, but they can be pretty funny. Here is Mario Valentino's take on this Gucci bag. Here is their take of a Kate Tassel bag by Saint Laurent. Here is their take on a Celine micro luggage bag. Here is a rip of the Givenchy Antigona bag. I have that bag, it's wonderful. Balenciaga sock runners, Chanel boy bag, Prada's inverted triangle logo, Dior book tote, Balenciaga hourglass, the Bottega Veneta weave without bothering to even weave the leather. Listen, you watch this channel, I know you're smart. I know you're not looking at this and saying, OMG, it's the Givenchy Antigona bag. But there are a lot of people out in the world who might need to buy a nice handbag at some point who don't care about this stuff the way that you and I do, and that should be okay. The problem is that Daniela and I do know people personally who have been affected by this. They bought a Mario Valentino bag thinking for real that it was a Valentino Garavani bag. That's actually what inspired this video. We originally were just going to talk about how close they were, and then we found out there was kind of a whole court case about this exact thing. Daniela was very brave and had to explain to someone that for all intents and purposes, they bought a dupe, allegedly. Okay, so outside of the fact that these bags do look super close to one another, and if we do keep in mind that making bags looking super close to each other is not illegal, Mario Valentino is also being accused of breaking the coexistence agreement that we discussed earlier in the video. Back to logos. The entire reason that they signed this coexistence agreement in 1979 is because both of them wanted to use the V in their logos, and they needed to sort something out so their customers wouldn't get confused. And that is, by the way, that's completely valid. Both of the founders are actually named Valentino, and it is very, very common for fashion houses to be named after the person who founded the house. Though, for reasons in this video, a lot of designers are now moving away from that. Also because in some cases, not really relevant to this video, but in a lot of cases, you can lose the intellectual property rights to your own name, which is terrifying. But again, that's not relevant to this video. Moving on. Isaac, are you studying? Are you studying? Sorry, bud. Since you moved back, I haven't really, I should have called and coordinated with you. Ah, man.
Came back to me.
Oh my gosh. Well, hello, Mr. Jorts.
Thanks.
You're looking quite stylish.
Thanks, brother.
You can't sit there. We have to work. And regardless of what you said, I would have been like, sorry.
Isaac, unfortunately, we are not finished.
I'm so sorry.
We have multiple hours still of screaming to go.
I'm sorry, Mr. Night Before Christmas.
It's okay. Tim Burton looking ass.
Skellington, I'm so glad to see you.
It's only 278 days until Halloween, Jack. Mario Valentino was allowed to use Mario Valentino, M. Valentino, Valentino, or the letters MV or V exclusively on the outside of the handbag, together with Mario Valentino on the inside and on the packaging of all goods made of leather or imitation leather or other materials. So after the 1979 agreement, there actually were some changes and updates that were made due to a lawsuit that happened in Milan in 2018, so fairly recently. I'm just gonna, just real quick. Notably, this is not a quote, I just want to make sure I get it right. Notably, they ruled that Mario Valentino was not allowed to use both the V and the name Valentino together on the outside of the bag due to what Valentino Garavani's legal team argued is the giant or in the middle of those terms. Valentino Garavani also doubled down on their insistence that Mario Valentino be clearly visible on their packaging. So these are just some examples from the court document of times when they were in violation of these rules. You can see it's pretty straightforward. Just using the letter V and the name Valentino at the same time, you just can't do it. Do y'all want a surprise real quick? Hang on. My beautiful wife went to Saks Off Fifth, our local one, and bought this, which is a Mario Valentino bag, which is getting promptly returned directly after this video. Oh, do they like work off of commission in there? Like, are you gonna like ruin someone's day? Okay, cool.
This is your first time looking at this bag, right?
Oh yeah, that's kind of true actually. Okay, so let's get comfortable here and kind of see what we're looking at. First of all, I'm immediately made happy by this because it's crossbody, so under normal circumstances I would be like, cool, points for this bag. We have like a little tassel thing here, which is not attached to the zipper. This is the zipper, and it does say Valentino in huge, obvious letters on what is, I believe, meant to be the front of the bag. We have a little bag inside of it, and it says, Valentino Handbags Milano, made in Italy under license of Mario Valentino. Spa. We have our little shoulder strap thing here. Do not want. Do we have any other clues or fun details? All this shit out. Okay, here we go. Cool, cool, cool. So we have a little sales tag thing here, and this says, again, Valentino, a trademark owned by Mario Valentino, made in Italy. And then underneath that, Valentino in huge letters. Valentino, a trademark owned by Mario Valentino, ValentinoBags.com. Ooh, the website is ValentinoBags.com? That allegedly is fine with me. Valentino. Then on the inside, it says Valentino. It does have the V. It says Milan/New York. Okay, so this bag was $299, but the original retail was $675, so pretty swanky. Okay, so yeah, we have a lot of interesting things there, and obviously we can't draw any concrete conclusions from that. This is anecdotal and just fun because this is a YouTube video. Now, Valentino Garavani has always been known for this logo right here, what the court case refers to as a V inside of an ellipse. They use this in the background of a lot of their runway shows. When the agreement was first signed, Valentino Garavani could use Valentino, like the name, in block letters. They could use Valentino, the name, in the form of a signature, and the letter V in connection with a large variety of different types of merchandise. But now, after that Milan court stepped in 2018, they can now only use the name Valentino when it is followed up with Garavani in their leather goods, and they do have to stick to the stylized V logo because using the letter V on the outside of the bag is not allowed for Valentino Garavani unless it has distinctly different characteristics to the Mario Valentino V logo, which looks like this. It just kind of looks like a standard V. Valentino Garavani could keep using the V shape if it appears like it does like in their V Valentino perfume, which features more of a brushstroke V and has been sold in that same packaging for years at this point. So since that 2018 adjustment though, Valentino Garavani seems to have found a way to kind of get around those new limitations with the VLTN leather goods, which they've just recently started using. That seems like it's above board considering the agreement, but honestly I would have no idea with the lack of law degree and stuff. Also, strangely, it seems like Valentino Garavani is good to just use the word Valentino by itself as long as it's on clothing. Maybe that's not even part of the case. So at some point in the past, Valentino Garavani did create a handbag that featured a stud on the outside of the bag that was in the shape of the letter V. So the Milanese court in 2018 ruled that they were in violation of the agreement with that bag. It just appeared too close to the letter V without an ellipse that Mario Valentino had rights to use. Mario Valentino tried to say that Valentino Garavani's use of this print in the linings of their bags went against the agreement, but the Milanese court said that this was an artistic rendering, so it actually did not violate the terms. So in complete fairness, both brands have towed the line as to what they can do with this agreement, but I don't think that takes away from what Valentino Garavani is claiming in this current lawsuit. Stop. Why do logos matter? There is this kind of double-edged effect to creating and pushing logo products so heavily in the luxury market. So one side of the edge of the sword is that by doing that, you can legally protect yourself. If someone else is trying to use the LV monogram, Louis Vuitton can legally pursue them and they would be in the right. The second benefit to this double-edged sword is that it's incredibly profitable. Logo product basically sells itself if you're a certain kind of company. So when these designer companies have a super profitable asset, an asset that is widely considered to be the key to creating revenue for luxury brands. And that even applies to times like now when logo product is not trendy at all. You can still see how important it is for these brands to have so much control over their logos. Because in a way, financially, it's all they have. I don't, just personally and kind of on this channel generally, we don't really like logo product. Logos, as far as I'm concerned, generally just say two things. What company made your product and that you have enough money to get a hold of it. And most of the time, if it's like mainstream stuff, I just assume it's fake. The idea, though, with logos is that just that little symbol by itself should be able to summon up the brand's ethos in the minds of the public generally. This logo represents haute couture, Pier Paolo Piccioli, handmade gowns, the lucky 1,000 women who can afford those gowns, dresses that can sometimes cost over $100,000. It represents the color pink, studded bags, but like all designer logos, it can also just mean luxury. And that is especially true if you are just the kind of customer that doesn't want to keep up with all this stuff. They just want to have something luxurious in their life and to be able to show it off. And to be honest, there is not anything inherently wrong with that. However, a lack of an authentic logo can also communicate something. I mean, this bag says something different than this bag. But to me, it just feels like Mario Valentino is making an awful lot of business decisions that are meant to bait people who want a luxurious bag but maybe don't know enough about Valentino Garavani or Mario Valentino to be able to tell the difference. They seem to be making handbags for people in this scenario, if you will imagine with me. You want a wealth-signifying, luxurious handbag. You go to the store and you see a handbag with Valentino written on it. And you have heard of Valentino before because you've seen it at very expensive malls. You look at the price tag, it says $500, which is great because that is so much less than the $2,000-ish that you thought those handbags cost. It must be your lucky day because this one is so much cheaper. You're getting a designer handbag. Mario Valentino just seems to be operating their business in the United States hoping that this scenario happens to you. And I know, I get it. Hang on. Before you run to the comment section, I do not want you to feel bad for their luxury competitor, Valentino Garavani. The real victim here, if there is a victim, the alleged victim here, is an unsuspecting person who wants a designer handbag that fits in their budget, and they thought that they had found the solution to that. Brand perception is important. Mario Valentino used to host runway shows during Milan Fashion Week, and now they are allegedly angling to benefit off of the Valentino Garavani name to sell $300 to $500 handbags. That is unfortunately quite a change. The reality is there has been no greater change in culture in human history than the time between Mario Valentino starting his company to now. Like, just think about what it would have taken to produce a hit product in 1960 and compare that to what it takes to have a hit product now, 60 years later. The business of fashion has never been easy, but it has become harder and harder to make it work as a brand. I mean, you can ask any small fashion designer and they'll tell you the same thing. Even Mr. Garavani felt the pressure of the fashion industry. I mean, he had to switch over to ready-to-wear at a time when haute couture was declining so much that his mentor, Cristobal Balenciaga, literally had to fold his business. But he managed to make the switch. The brand survived a few sales and acquisitions. It sold a successful perfume, all while Mr. Garavani continued to design until his final couture show that occurred in January of 2008. They had a creative director named Alessandra Faccinetti for a year until they brought in Maria Grazia and Pier Paolo, the dynamic duo. Another big angle of this is the retailers. Different multi-brand retailers refer to them just as Valentino for the clothes, and then they use Valentino Garavani to talk about leather goods and accessories. Some just use Valentino Garavani to talk about both clothes and accessories. What we have found is that while there's maybe some trends, there is not 100% consistency with this. Saks uses Valentino Garavani to refer to the brand's clothes and the leather goods, I guess to be on the safe side. And I mean, it's like, why does this even matter, right? Do you know where Mario Valentino's bags are often sold and where we literally bought ours? Saks off Fifth. It's just the more affordable Saks store. So from the outside, this looks like Saks Fifth Avenue is saying we will happily carry the luxury designer brand Valentino Garavani. And then our discount arm, Saks off Fifth, will carry Mario Valentino because it is cheaper. If you are a customer who likes designer goods and you go to Saks off Fifth, what's sort of being implied here is that you are getting to shop discounted luxury products. So I went into a Saks off Fifth to see how they had their Valentino products set up. They're marked differently, but in my opinion, it looks as though Mario Valentino is some kind of like diffusion line. And that's not Saks' fault, and that's not even really why I'm bringing it up. It's just that could be one of the reasons why Valentino Garavani thought it necessary to bring this lawsuit to court. And further into that subject, Saks off Fifth does not refer to itself as an outlet necessarily, but we should talk about outlets for a second. Outlet stores can sell all kinds of stuff, like stuff that's out of season, maybe some damaged luxury product, or product that was designed and only sent to the outlet locations of that brand, which, by the way, is the vast majority of all outlet stores. There are obviously exceptions to this, but you should know, if you were under the impression that it's like, oh, let's go to the outlet store, because why pay full price? That is why people still pay full price for a lot of this stuff, is because stuff in outlet stores was made for outlet. It's misleading, but it is kind of part of how the modern world works. Okay, let's now talk about diffusion lines. Diffusions are nothing like outlets. Let's get outlets out of our head now. Diffusion lines are the sister to their main luxury line of products that sell things that are generally more wearable and always things that are more affordable. So just some examples of this are like Emporio Armani C by Chloe, MM6, CDG Play. Valentino Garavani, interestingly, had a diffusion line called Red Valentino that was started in 2003 and shuttered just recently here in 2022. Red Valentino was sold at most of the same places that Valentino Garavani was sold, which is the case for most luxury diffusion lines. Like most stores where you could go and buy a real pair of Tabby boots, probably also sell a few things from the MM6 line. This is why it feels to me so much like a diffusion line when the same store is selling Mario Valentino bags right next to the much more expensive Valentino Garavani bags. I understand that if you don't know anything about this case, we can get a little bit confusing here, so this is kind of a summary right here. Mario Valentino allegedly seems to be trying to mislead customers into thinking that it is a diffusion line of some kind for Valentino Garavani. And I can see why someone might think that! If luxury brand Valentino Garavani is selling $3,000 handbags at Saks Fifth Avenue, and then the premium brand Mario Valentino is selling their leather bags at Saks off Fifth, you might see how someone might reasonably come to the assumption that they are buying a diffusion line of the Valentino Garavani bag at the outlet store Saks off Fifth, even though Saks is not technically an outlet, and obviously Mario Valentino is not a diffusion line of Valentino Garavani. Combined with the fact that there are allegations of stolen designs here, you can see why a perfectly reasonable adult would be at Saks off Fifth and would assume that they were buying a discounted Valentino Garavani bag. So there are also some really fascinating little details about this case that we're going to just run through really quickly. In 2017, before the Milan court case, Valentino Garavani was just using the name Valentino freely in their ad campaigns, and then after 2018, you started much more prominently seeing the name Garavani. In fact, neither of us, Daniela nor I, could find any examples of Garavani being used in a Valentino campaign between the passing of Mr. Mario Valentino, which is in 1991, and the acquisition by Yarch Capital in 2013. The lawsuit also alleges that the Mario Valentino Fall 2018 lookbook appears very different than the immediately prior lookbooks in a very specific way. The name Mario used to be prominently featured, but in fall 2018, it is notably absent. I believe that this campaign came out after the Milan court ruling in 2018, but we aren't able to verify that, so don't take it as gospel. And, you know, on that same thing, again, I am not a lawyer, but these are just other interesting miscellaneous things that were mentioned in those court documents, and because you're only probably watching one video about this, I figured I'd include them. Also, all of the fact-finding for this video came from publicly available court documents, which you yourself, if you're a US citizen, can just pull anytime you want. It's pretty interesting. Like, neither of us have law degrees, but when you're reading through it, it really is pretty fascinating stuff. This is like the most interesting lawsuit that I think I've ever heard about. And hey, if you're watching this and part of you is angry because it's like, well, fuck me, right? I don't want to spend $2,000 on a handbag. I can't afford that either, and both Danielle and I are obsessed with handbags. We just buy used ones. I carry regularly 2 different Givenchy bags. It's the Pandora bag in green, and I have another one in brown. I got both of those bags secondhand for $250 and then $300 on the other one. I mean, they are cheaper than the like premium high street whatever like category of bags, and they essentially were not used at all. I mean, there's nothing that will make a Birkin not cost Birkin prices. There is nothing that is going to make a Louis Vuitton never full not a never full price. But if you are willing to look around a little bit and find things that are suited to your taste and that are by brands that are famous for their quality, you can find lots and lots and lots of options that essentially have barely been touched and cost almost nothing. Shout out to the fashion law. This video would not have been possible without their reporting. If videos like this interest you, you need to go to the fashion law and just kind of poke around at some of their top stories. It's a really fascinating world to look into. Also, if you love stuff like this, like I said, go join that Patreon. Not only do you get plugged into an excellent community of like-minded fashion nerds, but you also get to just see a ton of extended footage. We go to Paris Fashion Week every 3 months, and we report from a ton of different brands. We usually cover about 40 per episode, and we do tons of interviews. The extended interviews are on that Patreon, along with a bunch of other like small projects and extended videos that we've done. There is dozens of hours at this point on the Patreon for you to watch.
Folks, there's one other important element to this video that we'll need to cover today. This video was created for entertainment purposes only. Everything that I have said is alleged and corresponds to publicly available court documents from an ongoing legal case, also the First Amendment, so fuck you.